Hey you, yes you. The odds of you not being subscribed to the channel are very high, so if you haven't already, it would mean the world if you'd subscribe if you're new and join the Woods crew to help me go full time. Hope you all enjoy this one. Woods out. Bradley Beal and the Wizards recently got a massive W against the Brooklyn Nets, but Bradley Beal might just be making a huge mistake after he said that he wants to stay in Washington despite everything that has happened this year. And today, we're going to talk about why the Wizards will disappoint Bradley Beal and lead him to wasting yet another year of his prime if he stays. Saying that the Washington Wizards have been on a roller coaster of emotions so far this season is an absolute understatement. Going into the season, this was the Wizards' one last chance to show that they could win, or else more than likely they would lose Bradley Beal even though he has been loyal up until this point. And so far, the Wizards have looked absolutely terrible to start the season. Well, until their huge win against the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not gonna lie, I thought the Nets had this one in the bag, and the way that the game ended was nearly impossible. In fact, when teams are down by 5 or more with this amount of time that the Wizards had left, it just comes down to luck on the inbound for them to win. We just saw Zach LaVine and the Bulls do it last season for the W, and the Wizards just did the same thing to the Nets, and it's a rare occurrence to say the least. Now let me just say, I'm not going to try and downplay this win for the Wizards because it was a huge win. Not only did the team finally win a big game, but Bradley Beal just came out and said that he doesn't even want to get traded and believes that this team can win. But the fact is, this may be a big mistake for Bradley Beal if this statement that he said is true. Quote, he is privately frustrated and confused with the perpetual portrayal of his situation according to sources familiar with his thinking. After seeing other players taking criticism for requesting to leave teams, those sources say Beal feels that he's being nitpicked for choosing to stay in DC, where he began his NBA career in 2012. He felt similarity when he signed the extension in October of 2019, and speculation about his future has swirled ever since then. Now, I love Bradley Beal and his loyalty, but my man will have to make a choice. Bradley Beal needs to decide whether he wants to stay in Washington, be the man of the team, and keep falling short, or do what James Harden just did and sacrifice his role to join a contender and chase a ring that he wants so badly. This may sound harsh, but there is no way that Beal is winning a chip with the Wizards with all the dominant teams in the league today. But back to the game that was on the other night. There were definitely some flashes of greatness in the Wizards from this game. I mean, you guys saw how good Bradley Beal played, but he was literally been hooping like this all season long. The real change was Russell Westbrook, who went off and looked like his former self when he was pulling up for 3 and making it splash, as well as being very aggressive when going to the rack and not settling for any mid-range shots he has been struggling with so much. Not only did the 2 stars of the Wizards go off, but they got some solid numbers from their bigs and others on the bench. Mo Wagner, Robin Lopez, and Ish Smith all had amazing games, scoring over 10 points on crazy shooting percentages. This was almost the perfect game for the Wizards, but that's exactly why this team is so concerning to me. Bradley Beal has made it clear that he wants to win, and he is 100% serious about that. We've seen what he looks like when he isn't winning, and it truly makes him look very frustrated, which is definitely understandable. But the fact is, the Wizards had the best game possible, and they still only won by a miracle at the end of the game against a contender in the Nets. So the question is, could the Wizards maintain this level of play if they get some better pieces and make a deep playoff push? Well, let's just get right into what I think about this and the opinions of other league executives as well. Although this game was impressive from the Wizards, it's clear that one of the main reasons they won is because the Nets' defense is horrible, and so is Washington's. I don't care what you say, these are 2 of the worst defenses in the league. Well, maybe not as bad as my Wolves, but still pretty bad. At this point, the Nets and Wizards have to rely on outscoring their opponents to win because their defense is not going to get them any Ws. We just saw it in this game on both sides. The Nets were up by 18 in the first half, then they had a defensive lapse and blew the whole lead. And in the second half, the Wizards did the same thing, allowing the Nets to get back a 10-point lead. But then the Nets blew that again, and the Wizards stole the game at the very end. This way of playing will not allow the Wizards to win and will only make Bradley Beal more upset because guess what? Russell Westbrook is not going to put up 40 points tonight, and this team is gonna lose a lot this year. I think even to the point where Bradley Beal retracts his statement and requests a trade because he flat out can't take losing anymore. In my eyes, Bradley Beal is a very similar player to Giannis Antetokounmpo, a dominant player that just wants to win, but the difference between the two is that Giannis has had so much more winning than Beal, which is why he didn't leave the Bucks. Giannis and the Bucks have had multiple seasons being at the near top of the Eastern Conference in the regular season and have been able to make solid playoff pushes. Not to the level that Giannis has wanted, obviously, but definitely enough to keep him around in hopes of bringing a ring to Milwaukee. Bradley Beal, on the other hand, well, he has had none of this, specifically in the last couple seasons. The Wizards have been pretty close to the bottom for some time now and haven't even been close to where the Bucks have been at, let alone contending for a championship. But somehow, Bradley Beal is still with Washington and he is convinced that the Wizards can win at the highest level as of right now. Me, on the other hand, along with many of you guys, I'm assuming, well, we're not so sure. I said that the Nets and Wizards are in a very similar situation right now, but the Nets have it a lot easier than the Wizards do. For Brooklyn, it looks like all they need is a solid wing that can be a 3-and-D guy, and more importantly, a rim protector that they can have the same impact that Jared Allen had. But what makes this so much easier for Brooklyn is the fact that players want to go there and compete for a chip. And even though this doesn't mean much in trades as it does with free agency, it still does mean something with the buyouts that can happen. And it's looking like Andre Drummond would not mind to join the Nets and compete for a chip. But for the Wizards, no one wants to go there, and I mean no one, because they are an absolute mess right now. And the Nets just traded away some of their most valuable young pieces that they have, and they have an overall incomplete roster right now, which is why they have been struggling on the defensive side of the ball. But the Wizards, on the other hand, have literally no excuse besides injuries, but even before that, they were still far from good on this side of the ball. What makes this decision by Bradley Beal even worse is the fact that the Wizards haven't even talked about making moves to improve their roster. As a Timberwolves fan, I can say that they are in the exact same boat as the Wizards. They have offensive talent, but their defense is horrendous. But neither of these teams will make moves to improve. They just sit there and hope that their young talent will develop into the newest best defender and don't get anyone who can defend in the meantime, which makes them absolutely garbage. If Bradley Beal truly wants to stay in Washington, they will have to make some major moves to help the team win. Now, some people may think that the biggest move the Wizards can make right now is for players, but I believe that right now the Wizards should make a move in their front office. And there have been rumors surrounding this lately, which make the Wizards keeping Bradley Beal a little more realistic if they can pull this signing off. Recent news broke out that many of you may not have even heard or looked into at all, but the Wizards plan on making another run at the Toronto Raptors president of basketball operations, Masai Ujiri, and the report states that the organization wants Ujiri to be in charge of the Wizards basketball operations and is willing to offer a lot to secure his services. This acquisition would be huge for the Wizards. Not only would they get someone who knows what it takes to make a championship team, but they would get someone who is willing to trade for assets that would better the team, and not just let the bad situation get worse. We just saw Ujiri do this in Toronto and it led to a chip. The DeRozan-Lowry combo was just not enough to contend, so the Raptors, led by Ujiri, made a move to get Kawhi Leonard, which put them over the hump to win a chip. Now, I'm not saying that he would make these moves to the Wizards and make them instant contenders, but I do believe that over time he would make the right moves and draft picks to make this team good enough to keep Beal happy. So let's just get right into what moves should be made regardless who's the president of basketball operations that would help this team get more wins now and in the future. I already mentioned in a previous video linked above that the Wizards desperately need some help on the wing, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, and in my eyes, the best trade option for them is OG Anunoby. But aside from that, the Wizards need to make a move for a big man rim protector that can fill the shoes of Thomas Bryant, who recently tore his ACL. As of right now, I think that JaVale McGee would be the best option for the Wizards. McGee is known as a klutz, but he's become a great NBA talent, and we saw that with his time last year in the Lake Show. The Wizards could definitely get McGee for fairly cheap, and he would have a great impact on the team defensively and help them get more W's for sure. If the Wizards make these moves in the front office and on their roster, this team could become something great. But as of right now, with the roster they have, Bradley Beal is making a big mistake because the Wizards cannot win at the highest level right now, and it's not even close. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, it would be literally clutch if you could subscribe if you're new and join the Woods crew, as well as leaving a like down below. That's legitimately all it takes for me to go full time. But regardless, I appreciate all you guys still watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Woods out.